Hello everyone, my name is Tony. Today we're going to be talking about 3 Craigslist horror stories. Craigslist is a very popular online marketplace where people can buy and sell various items, find jobs, or even look for roommates. While it has provided a convenient platform for many legitimate transactions, it has also been the source of some terrifying experiences for others. In this video, we will be sharing 3 real-life horror stories that happened on Craigslist. The first story we're going to be talking about is by Max Rivera. Quite some years ago, I turned into Craigslist as I was on the hunt for a room for rent. The goal was to discover a cozy home where I could split the rent with a roommate or possibly 2. It took me a solid week and numerous phone calls with the landlord, who was also to be my roommate, before I could finally say it was all set to move. The landlord, named Aaron, seemed like a regular, genuine guy around my age. We had a good chat about the house and what was to expect, and it felt like if we were to hit off quite well. As things appeared absolutely perfect, a wave of excitement washed over me. I didn't own much stuff, so packing was a breeze. I simply crammed everything into my car's trunk, and after a few days I started the 30-minute drive towards what could be my new nest. The house was nuzzled away from the bustling town, embracing a more scenery and woodsy atmosphere. A lengthy driveway stretched from the road, leading away to the house. Upon arrival, it wasn't what I expected. It was an ancient wooden home, easily a century-old, inherited by Aaron from his parents. I had seen pretty modern interior photos on Craigslist, so I was led to believe that the house must have had some significant renovations. Getting out of the car, I left all my belongings inside, knocked on the door, and was greeted by Aaron. The exterior had a worn-out look, but the interior had a totally different story. It was clean, well-maintained, and had clearly been renovated not too long ago. Extremely satisfied, I moved all my stuff in that very night. The following days were peaceful, and it felt like I was sharing a home not with a stranger from Craigslist, but with a friend. Aaron was usually at work in town, and being a remote worker, I had the home all to myself, except for one constantly locked door, presumably leading to the basement, even though Aaron mentioned the house was a single-storied. Days rolled out uneventfully until Aaron returned one evening with fast food for dinner and retired early for the work next day. I also hit the sack after a while, but sleep was elusive that night. I heard Aaron's door creak open. A long pause later, soft footsteps towards my door, halting briefly and fading down the main hallway. A door quietly opened and closed. I didn't know what to make of this. It was strange and creepy, and yet it felt uncharacteristic of what Aaron to act weird. This pattern continued for a few nights. Every time I'd go to bed, about half an hour later, Aaron would open his door, pause at my door, then disappear behind the mysterious locked door, never to return to his room. One evening, I decided to unravel the mystery. I could no longer ignore the creepy sense of unease. Just Aaron opening the locked door, ventured into the hallway, I found him startled by the open door. Upon being asked about his nightly visits at that door, he reacted alarmingly, bolting through the back door, disappearing into the woods. Shaken, I managed to close the back door, pick up a kitchen knife, and approach the door Aaron had opened. It led to the basement, unlit and unrenovated, the decaying wooden walls. I was a mix of curiosity and fear, but decided to pack up my things, load them into my car, and drive off, never turning back. I lost touch with Aaron since that night. Almost 5 years later, curiosity rekindled, and I looked up on the house online, only to find it had been demolished years ago due to criminal findings. The realization left me rattled for weeks. Unnerving as my experience was, it's a reminder that one can never be too cautious. The next story is going to be by Peter J. Let's rewind back to the time of 2013 when I was sprightly 22 years old. There I was, trying to sell an old beat-up computer of mine. Nothing fancy or valuable. It was pretty much paperweight, really. But hey, one man's trash is another man's treasure, right? Though it might be useful to someone. Back then, Craigslist was my go-to for selling stuff. It was pretty popular. I hadn't heard any scary stories about it, just an easy-to-use site where people in the area could snag deals. That's what I thought of. Given that I was rather familiar with my neighborhood, I wasn't too hesitant about listing my old PC there. I got my first bite of the day. This guy, let's call him Cameron, was willing to pay full price, provided by the computer worked as described. I assured him he could give it a whirl before finalizing the deal. So we planned to meet the very next morning and he even promised to drop an email when he was en route. So, the next day, I was up bright and early waiting for the rendezvous at 11 a.m. I kept waiting for his email update, but nothing came. By 11:15, I decided to just chill, turning on my favorite TV show and still keeping an eye out for Cameron. But nothing happened until 11:45, when out of the corner of my eye, I spotted a car creeping up to my house and halting on the curb. I turned off the TV, straining to see if it was Cameron, but the car didn't budge, nor did it switch off. Suddenly, it just reversed and drove off. Confused, I was peered out the window, wondering if that was Cameron or just some random passerby. I dropped him an email to confirm it was him coming. Strangely, I didn't receive any response. After waiting another hour, I gave up and went about my day, pushing the whole episode to the back of my mind. Late that night, around 11, I started to awake by a faint thumping noise from downstairs. I dismissed it initially, but it kept repeating, growing louder with each thud. I decided to investigate, and to pull through the echo hallways, my anxiety was ramping up. Each resonating thump. Turning a corner, I gasped. There was a shadowy figure outside the window at the end of the hall. My heart seized as another thump rattled the window, making me jump. Then, the figure leaned into the window, pressing its face against the glass. Its eyes locked into mine. It was terrifying. The next second, however, it dashed away, melting into the night. I immediately called the police, but the intruder was long gone. I strongly suspected it was Cameron, but there was no concrete evidence. All that was left was a damaged window fastening as if someone was attempting to pry it open. There were no further developments, but that chilling experience was enough for me. It marked the end of my associations with Craigslist. The last story will be by an anonymous person. So here I am, a 22-year-old woman stumbling upon Craigslist a month ago in hopes of finding a decent couch for my new place. I chanced upon what seemed like a pretty sweet deal. The couch looked tip-top based on the pictures, an absolute catch. The seller preferred to be contacted by via email, which was mexicanpoppy666@hotmail.com. A bit particular, I admit, but I shrugged it off, shooting off my offer with his email inbox. In no time, about 5 minutes or so, he accepted my offer and asked for my address. His request made me squirm a bit. Having a complete stranger show up at my doorstep wasn't exactly I signed up for. I proposed to fetch it from his place, but he insisted on delivering it to my home. I eventually decided to back off and stop replying. However, a day later, he dropped me his address. I was quite unsure, but the deal seemed too tempting to pass. Plus, he wasn't too far based on the address he gave. I hopped onto my van and navigated my way to his place. Upon reaching his house, seemingly odd, smaller than the rest, as I rang the bell, a middle-aged man donning the baseball cap with a welcoming grin greeted me. A lump formed with my throat, unease washing over me. He led me to his living room, and there it was, the couch. It was an immediate letdown. Scuffs and tiny marks were visible, contrasting the immaculate condition shown in the pictures. Upon pointing this out, he offered a discount. I declined, and that's where things took an unsettling turn. As I attempted to leave, he placed his hand on my shoulder. He practically offered the couch for free, but at a bizarre exchange. His proposition left me retching, and I hastily got back into my van without a second glance. The creepy encounter didn't end there. Later that night, I was catching up on my favorite shows when I heard what sounded like someone attempting to get into my house. I sprinted to my front door, peeping through the hole. However, no one was in sight. Then, I thought I heard the backyard gate squeaking open and close. It was then I dialed 911 in a frenzy. Not long after, I heard the doorknob of my back door being meddled with. I shouted out a warning that the police were en route, and just like that, the sound ceased. A month has passed since then, and thankfully, no recurrence, but I'm still haunted by sleepless nights. I'm certain that the couch seller who had followed me home, what a terrifying coincidence. I've decided to quit on Craigslist, and I'm still on the search for a new place. So, that's a wrap. If you like this video, subscribe to the channel and share with your friends. Once again, my name is Tony, and I'll see you guys later.